So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, what city are you in right now, and what time is it? I want to imagine the exact setting as you listen to this. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Tonight, we travel back to the late 16th century, to a place shrouded in mystery, the Roanoke Colony, America's first English settlement that vanished without a trace. Despite countless theories and centuries of research, the fate of the lost colony remains one of the greatest puzzles in early American history. What happened to those settlers? Did they survive? Were they absorbed into native tribes? Or did something darker occur? As you settle in, imagine the thick forests, the vast Atlantic waves, and the brave souls who dared to build a new life on unfamiliar shores. Let's explore the whispers of the past and uncover clues hidden beneath the layers of time. Relax, breathe deeply, and prepare to be drawn into a story of mystery, survival, and the unknown. The late 16th century in England was a time of great ambition and exploration. Queen Elizabeth I's reign saw a surge in naval expeditions seeking new lands and wealth across the Atlantic. England, eager to compete with Spain and Portugal, looked westward with hope and determination. Sir Walter Raleigh, a favoured courtier of the Queen, was granted a royal charter to establish an English colony in the New World. His vision was bold: to create a foothold in the Americas that could expand English influence and trade. In the bustling streets of London, plans were drawn up. Advisors, sailors, and merchants gathered in candlelit rooms, discussing ships, supplies, and the risks ahead. The air buzzed with excitement and apprehension. Among them stood Raleigh, confident and determined, promising glory and riches. The dream of a new world called to many, but few understood the hardships that awaited. As England prepared to send its first permanent settlers across the ocean, the stage was set for a story of courage, mystery, and tragedy. Sir Walter Raleigh was driven by a powerful vision: to establish a thriving English colony in the New World. His ambition was not merely for personal glory, but to secure England's place on the global stage, rivaling Spain's vast empire. In his chambers, Raleigh met with trusted advisors and experienced sailors. They discussed routes, supplies, and the challenges of crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Maps were spread out, marking unknown lands and potential settlement sites. Raleigh emphasized the importance of forming good relations with the native peoples, understanding their customs, and learning to live off the land. Yet, he was aware of the risks: disease, hostile tribes, harsh weather, and isolation. He also spoke passionately about the promise of new resources: timber, gold, and fertile land. The dream was to build a colony that would not only survive but prosper, fueling England's economy and influence. The men nodded, thoughtful, inspired by Raleigh's confidence and the promise of adventure. Preparations intensified as they recruited settlers, built ships, and gathered supplies. The journey ahead was uncertain, but Raleigh's vision ignited hope and courage. The age of English colonization had begun, setting the stage for the dramatic tale of Roanoke. The first English expedition to Roanoke Island set sail in 1585, carrying explorers, soldiers, and craftsmen eager to claim new lands. The journey was long and perilous, with storms battering ships and food supplies dwindling. Upon arrival, the settlers faced an unfamiliar and challenging environment. Dense forests, swamps, and harsh weather tested their resolve. The land was beautiful, but also unforgiving. The settlers began constructing shelters and planting crops, relying on both their skills and help from the local Algonquian tribes. Initial interactions were cautious but hopeful. However, tensions soon arose. Misunderstandings and cultural differences led to conflict. The settlers' demands clashed with native customs, creating fear and mistrust. Supplies from England were scarce, and with winter approaching, the colony struggled to survive. The first attempt was marked by hardship, and after a difficult year, the colony was abandoned. Though unsuccessful, the 1585 expedition laid the groundwork for future attempts and offered important lessons for the colonists and England alike. Life on Roanoke Island was far from easy. The first settlers battled harsh weather, unfamiliar terrain, and a scarcity of food. Disease and malnutrition took a toll, and morale often wavered. Families tried to build homes using wood from the dense forests, but storms frequently damaged their efforts. Farming proved difficult in the poor soil, and hunting was a daily challenge. Despite hardships, the settlers leaned on each other for support. They shared scarce resources, tended to the sick, and worked tirelessly to create a new community in this strange land. Yet fears of the unknown loomed. The settlers were wary of the indigenous peoples and the wild landscape that tested their survival skills every day. Their resilience was remarkable, but the harsh reality of frontier life forced many to question whether they could truly thrive here. Interactions between the Roanoke settlers and local Native American tribes were complex. Early encounters were cautious, both groups wary yet curious. Some tribes, like the Algonquians, offered guidance, traded food, and shared knowledge of the land. These alliances were vital for the settlers' survival. However, cultural misunderstandings and competition over resources led to growing tensions. Differing worldviews caused distrust, and occasional skirmishes broke out. Negotiations were delicate. Both sides sought to assert their interests while navigating unfamiliar customs. The settlers realized that building trust was essential but fragile. Any misstep could provoke conflict and endanger the entire colony. This balance of cooperation and suspicion set the tone for future relations and shaped the colony's fate. After a challenging year, the first group of settlers boarded ships to return to England. Their journey home was filled with relief, reflection, and uncertainty about the colony's future. The voyage was rough. Storms battered the ships, food supplies dwindled, and sickness struck many aboard. Yet, the thought of returning to familiar shores gave them strength. As they approached England, they carried tales of hardship and survival, stories of a wild land full of promise, but fraught with peril. Upon arrival, the settlers' accounts stirred interest and concern among England's leaders. The colony had faced serious challenges, but the dream of a new world foothold endured. Plans for future expeditions began to take shape, fueled by determination to learn from mistakes and succeed where others had struggled. Back in England, enthusiasm for colonization renewed. Plans for a second expedition to Roanoke took shape quickly. Sir Walter Raleigh and his supporters rallied resources, gathering supplies, skilled workers, and families willing to brave the unknown again. Meetings buzzed with hope and urgency. Maps were examined, routes debated, and lessons from the first attempt carefully considered. This time, the goal was more ambitious: to establish a permanent settlement, complete with women and children, ensuring the colony's growth and survival. Recruits trained, ships were refitted, and provisions stocked. England's hopes rested on this voyage. The settlers embarked with determination, aware of past hardships, but motivated by dreams of a new life, freedom, and prosperity. The stage was set for a historic journey that would test human endurance and change history. The second Roanoke expedition set sail with renewed hope and a larger group of settlers, including families and skilled craftsmen. Their mission was clear: build a permanent English presence in the New World. After a long and difficult voyage, the ships reached Roanoke Island. The settlers disembarked, greeted by familiar forests and the vast Atlantic horizon. Excitement and nervous anticipation filled the air. This group faced challenges different from the first. They brought women and children, hoping to establish a lasting community. Homes were quickly constructed and gardens planted. John White was appointed governor, tasked with leadership and maintaining order in the fledgling colony. The settlers began building fortifications and organizing daily life. Relations with native tribes remained cautious but friendly, though tensions simmered beneath the surface. The colony's survival depended on the settlers' resilience and cooperation. Their dream for a new home balanced precariously on hope and hard work. The new settlers faced the enormous task of turning wild land into a livable colony. They labored to clear forests, build sturdy shelters, and secure food supplies. Community efforts were essential. Men hunted and fished, women tended children and prepared food, and skilled craftsmen built tools and fortifications. Each day brought hardships, unexpected storms, illness, and the constant threat of famine. The settlers adapted, learning from native neighbors and relying on each other. John White worked tirelessly to maintain morale and order. Meetings were held to discuss food rationing, defense strategies, and relations with the natives. The colony grew slowly but steadily, a fragile beacon of English hope in a vast, unknown wilderness. Governor John White was a steady presence amid the colony's uncertainties. His leadership balanced practical governance with diplomatic efforts toward native tribes. White encouraged cooperation, fair distribution of resources, and maintenance of security. His background as an artist also helped him document the land and people. However, tensions occasionally flared among settlers frustrated by hardship and fear. White mediated disputes and sought to keep the community unified. He was also tasked with preparing the colony for his planned return trip to England to seek additional supplies and reinforcements. White's departure was a moment filled with hope and anxiety. He promised to return swiftly, leaving the settlers with faith in his leadership and their shared resolve. Life in the Roanoke Colony demanded constant adaptation. The settlers faced unfamiliar terrain, unpredictable weather, and limited resources. They learned to hunt wild game and gather native plants to supplement their meager food supplies. Families worked together to build sturdy shelters from the island's dense woodlands. Yet, storms often threatened their fragile homes, forcing repairs and rebuilding. Many settlers had little experience with frontier life, and learning to survive in this new environment was a daily challenge. The community relied heavily on cooperation and shared labor. Food shortages were common, and preserving what little they had was essential. Women prepared meals over open fires, while men fished along the coast and hunted in the woods. Despite the hardships, a sense of determination and hope kept the settlers moving forward, united in their dream of establishing a permanent home. The relationship between Roanoke settlers and local Native American tribes was a delicate balance of cooperation and tension. Early encounters involved cautious trade, corn and furs exchanged for tools and trinkets. Both sides were wary but curious. Native Americans shared survival knowledge, teaching settlers how to grow crops suited to the land. However, misunderstandings were frequent. Differences in language and customs sometimes led to conflict, suspicion, and fear. Trade agreements were often fragile, challenged by competition for resources and cultural differences. Occasionally, skirmishes broke out, reminding both communities of the fragile peace. This complex relationship was critical to the colony's survival and foreshadowed the struggles to come. Women and children were vital to the colony's fabric. Women managed households, cared for the sick, prepared food, and tended small gardens. Children, though young, learned quickly about the hardships of frontier life. They helped with chores, gathered firewood, and observed adults preparing for survival. Family bonds provided emotional support amid the uncertainty. Gatherings, prayers, and stories helped maintain hope and culture. Women often acted as mediators between settlers and natives, easing tensions with gestures of kindness. Despite the dangers, Family life flourished in its own rugged way, offering a glimpse of normalcy and comfort. Harsh winters on Roanoke Island brought fear and desperation. Food supplies dwindled, crops failed, and hunting became difficult as animals grew scarce. Settlers rationed every morsel, sharing what little they had to keep everyone alive. Families huddled together for warmth during freezing nights. The threat of starvation loomed large, and morale dipped. Some settlers questioned whether survival was possible, yet hope persisted. They relied on knowledge shared by Native Americans to find hidden food sources and prepared for the coming spring. These brutal months tested the settlers' resilience and underscored the fragile balance of survival. Disease struck the colony hard. Lack of proper sanitation, malnutrition, and close living quarters created fertile ground for illness. Many settlers fell ill, with fevers and respiratory ailments sweeping through the community. Women tended to the sick with herbal remedies and care, though limited medical knowledge hindered recovery. Loss weighed heavily on the colony. Every death was felt deeply, threatening the fragile social fabric. Despite suffering, the settlers pressed on, driven by faith and a fierce will to survive. Governor John White made the difficult decision to return to England to secure supplies and reinforcements for the struggling colony. Leaving behind families and friends, he set sail with hope and urgency. The voyage was long and perilous, and upon arrival, White faced the challenge of convincing English authorities to prioritize aid for Roanoke amid political tensions and war threats. He navigated the corridors of power, meeting with Queen Elizabeth's advisors, merchants, and financiers to gather support and resources. White's passion and first-hand accounts painted a vivid picture of the settlers' hardships and the colony's fragile future. As he prepared for the return voyage, White vowed to bring help as quickly as possible. But the realities of international conflict and weather would delay his journey, leaving the colony vulnerable. As John White prepared to return to Roanoke, England faced a looming threat, the Spanish Armada. The nation's focus shifted to military defense, delaying support for the colony. Ships were redirected to protect the English coast, and voyages to the New World were postponed indefinitely. The settlers at Roanoke were left to survive on dwindling supplies, their situation growing more precarious with each passing season. Back in England, anxiety over the Spanish threat dominated news and conversations, overshadowing colonial ambitions. This delay would prove critical, leaving the lost colony isolated and struggling. Months stretched into years as supplies failed to arrive. The settlers' hope waned, replaced by fear and desperation. Families gathered, sharing stories and praying for rescue, while some debated abandoning the colony. Tensions rose within the community, with arguments about leadership and survival strategies. Children and elders suffered the most as food shortages and harsh conditions took their toll. Despite despair, a strong will to survive endured. The settlers clung to faith and memories of home, determined not to give up. Their endurance would become a testament to human resilience in the face of the unknown. In the summer of 1590, John White finally returned to Roanoke, only to find the colony deserted. Homes were dismantled or empty, with no sign of struggle. The only clue left behind was the word Croatoan, carved into a wooden post. This mysterious message puzzled White and his crew. Was it a clue to the settlers' fate? Had they moved to Roanoke Island nearby? The discovery deepened the mystery, sparking theories and hope, but no clear answers. White was torn between searching further and the dangers that awaited. White planned to explore Roanoke Island, but worsening weather and dangerous seas prevented the rescue mission. Storms battered the ships, forcing White to turn back against his will. This failure weighed heavily on him and the colony's fate, leaving the settlers lost to history. The lost colony would remain a haunting enigma, inspiring legends investigations, and endless questions. White's thwarted rescue marked the beginning of centuries of speculation about what truly happened. After years at sea, John White finally returned to Roanoke Island, eager to reunite with the colonists. What he found instead was a silent, empty settlement. Houses stood abandoned, tools lay scattered, and not a single soul remained. The air was heavy with mystery and unease. White's heart sank as he searched for any sign of life or struggle, but found only eerie silence. His crew joined in a careful exploration, noting the absence of footprints or signs of battle. The only clue was a cryptic carving on a post, the word Croatoan. This single word would haunt White and historians for centuries, symbolizing the unsolved disappearance. Faced with this baffling mystery, White's hope mixed with despair. Had the settlers moved voluntarily? Were they victims of attack? Or had they found refuge among native tribes? This moment marked the beginning of the enduring enigma of the lost colony, a story woven with courage, tragedy, and unanswered questions. Determined to uncover the settlers' fate, White led expeditions across the island and nearby shores. The search was painstaking and fraught with tension. They found few clues beyond signs of hurried departure, uncollected food, tools left behind, and trampled vegetation. Native guides offered stories and directions, but none led to definitive answers. Some spoke of sightings of English settlers living with tribes. Others warned of danger. The island's dense forests and swamps complicated the search, hiding evidence and increasing risks. White's frustration grew as days passed without clear leads. Still, hope remained alive, fueled by every whispered rumor and broken clue. Back on board ship, White and his officers discussed possible explanations for the colony's disappearance. Some believed the settlers had moved inland or to Croatoan Island, seeking safety or new opportunities. Others feared hostile attacks or disease outbreaks had decimated the colony. Speculation also arose about assimilation into native tribes or secret removal by rival powers. Each theory carried weight, but little proof, deepening the mystery and complicating rescue efforts. These debates reflected the uncertainty and complexity of colonization in a hostile land. White sought information from native tribes, listening to elders recount tales of English settlers' fate. Stories varied. Some claimed settlers had joined tribes willingly, others spoke of battles or deaths. Communication was difficult, but vital, with interpreters bridging cultures and languages. These accounts fueled hope and fear, painting a picture of complex relationships and uncertain outcomes. The native perspective added rich layers to the mystery, blending fact, legend, and oral tradition. Tensions between settlers and some native groups sometimes erupted into violence. White's search parties faced attacks and ambushes, forcing them to defend themselves. Such conflicts underscored the dangers of colonial expansion and mistrust on both sides. Despite these dangers, White pressed on, driven by determination to find his people. The raids served as grim reminders of the frontier's volatility and the settlers' precarious position. One prevailing theory was that the missing colonists sought refuge with the Croatoan tribe, located on a nearby island. White's search efforts focused on this possibility, hoping to find survivors or evidence. The Croatoan people were known to be more friendly toward the English than other tribes. Stories from native guides suggested peaceful interactions and integration. However, despite efforts to locate the settlers on Croatoan Island, bad weather and dangerous seas prevented White from conducting a thorough search. The hope that the colonists had survived by joining the Croatoan tribe provided a bittersweet comfort. A possibility of survival mingled with the unknown fate that still shrouded the colony. After months of searching without success, John White faced the painful decision to return to England. His frustration and despair were palpable. He carried with him the mystery of the lost colony, reports of signs but no survivors, and a heavy sense of failure. Back in England, White struggled to convince sponsors and officials to fund another rescue mission. His accounts ignited public curiosity and concern, but also skepticism about the viability of the colony. The uncertainty and lack of closure left White haunted by what might have been and the fate of those left behind. News of the colony's disappearance spread across England, capturing imaginations and stirring rumours. Stories of ghostly settlements, vanished people, and secret disappearances became popular tales. Poets and playwrights wove the mystery into their works, mixing fact and fiction. The lost colony took on mythical status, symbolizing both hope and tragedy in England's colonial ambitions. Public fascination helped keep the story alive, even as the truth remained elusive. Cartographers and explorers struggled to accurately represent the New World, often leaving blank spaces or vague markings where Roanoke had been. Official reports sometimes omitted the colony's status, fueling speculation. Maps varied widely, reflecting limited knowledge and deliberate secrecy. These omissions contributed to the mystery as historians and adventurers sought clues in the shifting geography. The lost colony became not just a historical event, but a puzzle embedded in maps and documents. With no survivors found, and only fragmentary evidence, the lost colony became one of history's most enduring puzzles. Generations of explorers, historians, and archaeologists would dedicate themselves to solving the mystery. Maryland's disappearance sparked debates about colonization, survival, and cultural clashes. Its story remains a powerful reminder of the unknowns that surround early encounters between Europeans and Native Americans. As the centuries passed, the lost colony continued to inspire curiosity, cautionary tales, and a sense of wonder. One widely accepted theory suggests that the Roanoke settlers, facing starvation, chose to relocate from the island to the mainland or nearby native villages. Food shortages were common, and the harsh conditions pushed them to seek safer ground. Settlers may have packed their belongings and moved inland, hoping to find fertile land and better resources. Native tribes might have provided shelter or support. Evidence from archaeological digs hints at European artifacts found inland, supporting this possibility. However, no definitive proof has been found. Relocation was risky. Unknown terrain, potential hostility, and loss of supplies threatened their survival. Still, it might have been their best hope to avoid starvation and death. This theory remains a compelling explanation, but leaves many questions unanswered. Another theory posits that some or all of the Roanoke colonists integrated with Native American tribes, adopting their customs and lifestyles. Evidence suggests intermarriage and cultural assimilation may have occurred, as descendants with English ancestry were later reported among tribes. Settlers could have sought protection and community by joining local tribes, blending two cultures. This idea challenges earlier views of conflict and highlights cooperation and survival through adaptation. It also raises questions about identity, belonging, and the complex legacies of colonization. Some historians believe the colony was destroyed by hostile attacks, possibly by rival native groups or Spanish forces. Tensions over land and resources sometimes erupted into violence. Accounts of raids and massacres exist, though evidence is sparse. If true, this theory paints a grim picture of the colony's fate, explaining the sudden disappearance and absence of survivors. It reflects the violent realities of colonial expansion and native resistance. Some speculate that the Spanish, rivals of England, actively worked to suppress or eliminate the colony to protect their own claims. This conspiracy theory suggests covert operations, misinformation, and secret attacks. Though lacking solid evidence, this idea adds intrigue and reflects geopolitical tensions of the era. It illustrates the dangerous political game played over the New World. Another possibility is that some settlers attempted to escape Roanoke by sea, seeking rescue or new lands. Stormy Atlantic waters, limited navigation skills, and poorly maintained vessels made such voyages perilous. Shipwrecks or disappearances at sea would explain the colony's disappearance without trace. This theory highlights desperation and the settlers' will to survive by any means. Disease was a constant threat to the Roanoke settlers. Living in close quarters with limited sanitation made the spread of illnesses inevitable. Fever, dysentery, and respiratory infections ravaged the community. Many settlers succumbed to sickness, weakening the colony's ability to survive. Medical knowledge was limited. Settlers relied on herbal remedies and hope. The loss of life deepened despair. Native populations also suffered from introduced diseases, adding complexity to relationships. Disease may have decimated the colony, contributing significantly to its disappearance. Native American oral histories tell varied stories about the fate of the Roanoke settlers. Some tribes recount welcoming and assimilating English colonists sharing food and shelter. Others speak of conflict, capture, or death. These oral traditions offer valuable perspectives often overlooked in written records. They enrich our understanding, blending fact and legend in a complex narrative. Thoughtful listening to native voices helps bridge cultural gaps and deepen the mystery's context. Modern archaeology has uncovered artifacts that shed light on Roanoke's story. English tools, pottery shards, and building remnants found inland. Excavations suggest colonists may have moved or interacted extensively with native tribes. These findings support theories of relocation or integration. Thoughtful, each artifact is a piece of the puzzle, offering clues to the colony's fate. Ongoing digs and technological advances continue to reveal new insights. Recent DNA studies aim to trace the descendants of Roanoke settlers among native populations. Researchers compare genetic markers to uncover historical blending and migration patterns. These scientific efforts have opened new possibilities for solving the mystery. While still inconclusive, DNA evidence offers hope for clarity. Despite centuries of research, no single theory fully explains the lost colony's fate. Historians, archaeologists, and scientists continue to debate and investigate. The mystery captures imaginations worldwide, symbolizing the unknown in early American history. Roanoke remains a powerful story of hope, survival, and unanswered questions. Its enigma endures, inspiring new generations to explore the past. John White was more than just the governor of the Roanoke Colony. He was also an accomplished artist and cartographer. His detailed sketches and maps provide some of the earliest visual records of the New World and its native peoples. White's leadership was crucial in guiding the settlers through the colony's early challenges. He balanced authority with empathy, striving to keep morale high despite hardships. His artistic talents allowed him to document landscapes, native customs, and flora, preserving invaluable insights for England's future explorers. White's dual roles symbolized the blend of governance and exploration, science and survival that defined the Roanoke endeavor. Eleanor Dare, daughter of John White, was a central figure in the colony. She arrived with her husband and newborn daughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. Eleanor represented hope for the colony's future, symbolizing family and continuity amid uncertainty. Her experiences as a mother and settler reflect the human side of the colonial struggle, the efforts to build a new life and protect loved ones. Though little is known about her fate, Eleanor's legacy endures through stories and the symbolic importance of her daughter's birth. Ananias Dare, husband to Eleanor and a key member of the colony, took on the burdens of farming, hunting, and protecting his family. His daily struggles exemplified the settlers' fight to survive in an unknown land. Ananias faced dangers from the environment and strained relations with native tribes. Though historical records about him are sparse, his role was vital in the colony's effort to endure. Simon Fernandez, the pilot of the Roanoke expeditions, was a controversial figure. Some settlers accused him of selfishness and neglect, blaming him for mishaps and delays. His decisions during voyages, including choosing routes and timing, were often questioned. Despite criticism, Fernandez's maritime skills were essential to the colony's establishment and supply runs. His story highlights the tensions and challenges of leadership in perilous circumstances. Sir Walter Raleigh was the powerful patron behind the Roanoke expeditions, financing and promoting England's colonial ambitions. His vision of an English empire in the New World drove many of the efforts to establish and sustain the colony. Raleigh's court influence secured royal charters and funding, though political and military conflicts limited his support. His legacy is tied to both the boldness and tragedy of Roanoke, a dream that would inspire future generations. Sir Walter Raleigh, Manteo, was a native leader of the Croatoan tribe who played a crucial role as an ally to the English settlers. He acted as a mediator, interpreter, and guide, bridging two very different worlds. His cooperation was vital in establishing peaceful relations and helping settlers learn survival skills from the natives. Manteo's loyalty to the English earned him respect but also complicated his standing among other tribes. His story reflects the complex alliances and tensions of the early colonial period. Wingina, leader of the Sokotan tribe, initially greeted the English with curiosity, but soon became wary of their intentions. His resistance to the settlers grew as conflicts over land and resources intensified. Wingina's opposition led to clashes and contributed to the colony's instability. His perspective highlights the indigenous struggle to protect their territory against encroachment. The colony was made up of a diverse group: farmers, craftsmen, soldiers, women, and children, all trying to build a new life. Each played a vital role, from building shelters to tending fields to defending the settlement. Their daily lives were filled with hard labor, hope, and uncertainty. Women and children were the backbone of the colony's social fabric. Women maintained homes, prepared food, and cared for the young and sick. Children adapted quickly to the challenges, learning survival skills early. Their presence brought a sense of normalcy and future promise. Leaders like John White faced constant pressure to maintain order, secure resources, and navigate relations with natives. Decisions were difficult and fraught with risk, affecting everyone's survival. Disputes over authority and strategy sometimes arose, testing the colony's unity. Despite challenges, leaders endeavored to hold the fragile community together. Roanoke Island lies off the coast of present-day North Carolina, nestled between the Atlantic Ocean and the mainland. Its geography was both a blessing and a challenge. Dense forests, swamps, and waterways provided resources, but also made travel and farming difficult. The island's strategic position was ideal for a foothold in the New World, but isolation and harsh environment tested settlers' endurance. Understanding Roanoke's terrain is key to appreciating the settlers' struggles and the mystery of their disappearance. The region's climate featured hot summers, mild winters, and frequent storms. These conditions influence planting cycles, food availability, and daily life. Unexpected storms often damaged crops and shelters, forcing settlers to adapt quickly. Seasonal changes dictated the rhythm of survival, from planting in spring to enduring winter hardships. Roanoke's abundant plant and animal life provided vital resources: game for hunting, edible plants, and timber for building. However, unfamiliar flora and dangerous animals posed threats. Settlers had to learn which plants were safe and how to avoid wildlife dangers. Native knowledge was essential in navigating these natural challenges. The surrounding ocean was both a highway and a barrier. It enabled supply ships, but isolated the colony during storms and political turmoil. Rough seas and hurricanes made communication with England unreliable. The ocean's vastness contributed to the colony's vulnerability and eventual isolation. Native tribes managed the land sustainably, using controlled burns, crop rotation, and fishing practices. Their knowledge of the ecosystem contrasted with the settlers' unfamiliarity. Some settlers adopted these practices to survive, learning from native neighbors. Understanding native ecology offers insight into the challenges and opportunities faced by the colony. Roanoke Island's landscape was dominated by dense forests and swampy wetlands. These natural obstacles made travel and communication difficult for the settlers. Thick underbrush slowed movement, while swamps bred mosquitoes and disease. Settlers had to clear land for farming and build paths to navigate. The environment's challenges required adaptability and cooperation, as isolation could become deadly. Despite the beauty of the wild landscape, it posed constant threats to survival and progress. The combination of humid climates, stagnant water, and poor sanitation led to widespread disease among the settlers. Malaria, dysentery, and respiratory infections were common. Illness weakened many, reducing the colony's workforce. Native Americans, having lived in the environment longer, had some resistance, but Europeans were vulnerable. The settlers' struggle with health issues significantly hindered their ability to thrive. Roanoke's location offered strategic benefits: access to waterways for trade and defense, natural resources, and proximity to native tribes. However, its isolation and difficult terrain posed serious disadvantages, complicating resupply and defense. The colony was vulnerable to storms, attacks, and internal struggles. Thoughtful, understanding these factors explains many hardships and failures of the settlement. The settlers gradually learned to work with the land, adopting native farming techniques, fishing methods, and foraging. They cleared fields, planted crops suited to the soil, and hunted game. This adaptation was essential to survival, but never guaranteed success. The balance between human will and nature's power was a daily struggle. Centuries later, Roanoke's natural environment still holds traces of the colony's brief presence. Archaeological sites reveal remnants amid forests and marshes. The island's ecology has changed, but preserves stories in soil and stone. The land stands as a silent witness to history's mysteries, holding secrets beneath its surface. When the English settlers first arrived, their initial encounters with Native American tribes were marked by curiosity and caution. Both groups approached with wary eyes, uncertain of each other's intentions. Small groups met at forest edges or along riverbanks, exchanging gifts and observing customs. Language barriers complicated communication, but gestures and shared needs fostered tentative trust. The natives were intrigued by the settlers' tools and weapons, while the English marveled at native knowledge of the land and survival techniques. These early meetings set the tone for complex relationships, a blend of cooperation, misunderstanding, and mutual fascination. The fragile balance required patience, respect, and diplomacy on both sides to avoid conflict and build alliances. As settlers and native tribes spent more time together, cultural exchanges grew richer, but also more complicated. Settlers learned farming, hunting, and medicinal practices from the natives, which were crucial for survival. In return, natives gained metal tools and weapons, changing their way of life. However, misunderstandings arose from different worldviews and communication gaps. What one culture saw as friendly, the other might view as threatening or disrespectful. These misunderstandings sometimes escalated tensions, but also led to moments of genuine connection and shared knowledge. The blending of cultures was a delicate dance that shaped the colony's future. Trade became a central part of settler-native relations. Colonists traded iron tools, cloth and weapons for food, furs, and local knowledge. These exchanges were not just economic but political, forging alliances and dependencies. Control over trade routes and goods could shift power balances among tribes and settlers alike. Both sides used trade strategically to strengthen their positions and protect their interests. However, competition over resources sometimes led to rivalry and conflict. Trade networks were vital but fragile threads, weaving together diverse communities. Despite initial cooperation, tensions rose as settlers expanded their territory and demanded more resources. Natives grew fearful of land loss and cultural erosion. Settlers worried about attacks and survival. Competition over hunting grounds, water, and food led to disputes. Both groups reacted defensively, sometimes with hostility. The fragile peace teetered on the edge of violence, setting a pattern repeated in many colonial encounters. Skirmishes erupted as tensions boiled over into violence. Raids on settlements and native villages became more frequent. Settlers fortified their homes and formed militias. Native groups organized defenses and retaliations. These clashes disrupted daily life and deepened mistrust. Both sides suffered losses, hardening attitudes and fueling cycles of revenge. The ongoing conflict foreshadowed the violent struggles that would shape North America's future. Interpreters played a crucial role in the fragile relations between the settlers and Native American tribes. They helped bridge language barriers, facilitating trade, negotiations, and peace talks. Often these interpreters were natives familiar with English customs or settlers who had learned native languages. Their work required diplomacy, patience, and sometimes personal risk. Successful communication could ease tensions, build trust, and prevent conflicts. Yet, misunderstandings still occurred, and interpreters sometimes found themselves caught between conflicting interests. Their role was indispensable, shaping the outcomes of many early encounters and influencing the colony's survival. Native leaders such as Wingina and Manteo had differing views on the English settlers. Some saw them as potential allies against rival tribes, while others viewed them as threats to their land and culture. These leaders faced the difficult task of protecting their people while navigating the complex new realities brought by European colonization. Their decisions shaped the nature of alliances, conflicts, and negotiations with the settlers. Understanding native leadership perspectives reveals the deep complexity behind colonial interactions, often overlooked in history. Many colonists viewed Native Americans with a mix of fear, curiosity, and prejudice. They often misunderstood native customs and motives, leading to suspicion. Religious beliefs sometimes justified harsh treatment or attempts to convert natives. These prejudices complicated relations, fueling mistrust and conflict. However, some settlers advocated for respectful coexistence, recognizing natives' knowledge and humanity. This clash of perspectives shaped the social dynamics of the colony and the broader colonial project. Alliances between settlers and native tribes were often temporary and fragile. Shifts in power, resource pressures, and misunderstandings led to frequent changes. Some tribes allied with the English for protection or trade advantages, while others resisted encroachment fiercely. The fragile nature of these alliances meant peace was often precarious. These shifting loyalties had lasting impacts on the region's political landscape. The interactions at Roanoke set precedents for future colonial-native relations. Lessons learned here, both successes and failures, influenced later settlements and policies. The blend of cooperation, conflict, and cultural exchange defined early American history. Thoughtful, understanding Roanoke's legacy helps explain the complex roots of America's colonial past. As soon as the Roanoke Colony disappeared, early search parties were dispatched to find the missing settlers. These groups scoured the island and surrounding areas, desperate for clues. The searches were fraught with difficulty. Dense forests, swamps, and unfamiliar terrain slowed their progress. Weather conditions and hostile encounters added to the challenges. Searchers found abandoned tools, empty shelters, and vague signs of movement, but no definitive trace of the colonists. Despite setbacks, hope fueled their determination. Each expedition aimed to unravel the mystery and bring survivors home. The early efforts laid the groundwork for centuries of exploration and investigation. The political climate in England complicated rescue missions. The looming threat of the Spanish Armada shifted priorities toward national defense. Ships intended for resupply and search were delayed or reassigned to military efforts. Stormy weather and rough seas further hindered voyages to Roanoke. These delays left the settlers isolated, increasing their vulnerability. Back in England, frustration grew among colonists and sponsors eager to help, but international events overshadowed colonial needs. Rumors surfaced that some colonists had survived and integrated with native tribes. Reports from explorers and natives suggested sightings of English settlers living inland. These stories rekindled hope in England and among searchers. Letters and hearsay describe settlers adapting to native life, marrying into tribes, and surviving beyond Roanoke Island. Though unconfirmed, these accounts inspired further expeditions and research. The idea of survival amid uncertainty captivated imaginations. Subsequent expeditions expanded exploration of the region, mapping rivers, settlements, and native territories. Explorers gathered valuable information about the landscape and indigenous peoples, although they found no definitive trace of Roanoke colonists. These missions improved England's understanding of the New World and laid foundations for future colonization. Each journey deepened the mystery, but also advanced geographic and cultural knowledge. Spain viewed English colonization attempts as threats to its dominance in the Americas. Spanish officials sent spies and agents to monitor and sabotage English efforts, including the Roanoke Colony. Rivalry fueled conflict and mistrust, complicating rescue and expansion. Spain's military and political maneuvers contributed to delays and dangers faced by the colonists. Thoughtful, this geopolitical struggle added another layer to Roanoke's story. Reports about the fate of the Roanoke colonists were conflicting and confusing. Some claimed to have seen English settlers living among native tribes, while others told stories of disappearances or deaths. Explorers and Native Americans alike shared tales, but no consistent narrative emerged. Rumors of survival and tragedy spread through both communities. These conflicting stories fueled hope and frustration among those searching for answers. The lack of clarity deepened the mystery, making it difficult to separate fact from legend. Centuries later, archaeologists began excavating sites believed to be connected to the lost colony. They uncovered artifacts such as pottery shards, tools, and building remains. These discoveries provided clues about the colonists' movements and interactions with native peoples. New technology allowed for more precise analysis, though many questions remained unanswered. Archaeology bridged the gap between history and legend, shedding light on the colony's elusive story. Modern technology, including ground-penetrating radar and DNA analysis, has revolutionized searches for Roanoke descendants and sites. Scientists study genetic links between native tribes and English settlers, seeking evidence of assimilation. These advances bring new hope for unraveling the mystery. While definitive answers remain elusive, ongoing research keeps the story alive and evolving. Each new discovery adds pieces to the puzzle, supporting some theories while challenging others. Artifacts found inland suggest colonists moved away from the island. DNA studies hint at intermarriage with native peoples. Some evidence points to conflict or disease as causes of disappearance. These findings fuel debate and inspire new investigations. Despite centuries of study, the lost colony's fate remains unresolved. Historians, archaeologists, and scientists continue to search for conclusive proof. The mystery captivates imaginations worldwide, a symbol of the unknown in early American history. Roanoke's story reminds us of history's complexities and the enduring power of hope and inquiry. Its secrets continue to inspire curiosity and wonder. Over time, the story of the lost colony of Roanoke grew beyond history and entered the realm of folklore and legend. Tales of vanished settlers became woven into local myths, with ghost stories and mysterious sightings captivating imaginations. The idea of a vanished people lost to the wilderness sparked curiosity and fear. Some stories spoke of spirits wandering the forests. Others suggested secret survivor descendants hidden among tribes. These legends shaped cultural memory, turning Roanoke into a symbol of mystery and the unknown frontier. Folklore preserved the tale when written records faded, keeping the question alive for generations. Roanoke's mystery inspired numerous literary works. Poets, playwrights, and authors dramatized the colony's disappearance, blending fact with imagination. These works explored themes of exploration, loss, and survival, often romanticizing the settlers' plight. The lost colony became a popular subject in Elizabethan literature and beyond, reflecting contemporary anxieties and hopes. By weaving history with fiction, writers ensured the story's continued presence in cultural consciousness. In modern times, Roanoke's story appears in films, TV shows, and documentaries, captivating new audiences. Its blend of mystery, survival, and cultural clash appeals widely, making it a rich source for storytelling. Pop culture adaptations often emphasize suspense and drama, keeping the legend vibrant. The story continues to evolve as creative interpretations add new layers. Roanoke holds a special place in America's founding narrative as the first English attempt at settlement. It symbolizes early colonial ambition, the struggle to survive, and encounters with native peoples. The mystery embodies themes of exploration, loss, and the unknown that resonate deeply in American identity. Understanding Roanoke helps illuminate the complex roots of the nation. Across the United States, Roanoke is commemorated through monuments, museums, and historic sites. These symbols honor the settlers' courage and the enduring mystery of their disappearance. Memorials serve as places of reflection and education, connecting past and present. They remind us of the resilience and challenges of early colonization. The story of Roanoke sparks ongoing debates about colonization and its impact on indigenous peoples. Scholars examine the complex interactions, cooperation, conflict, and cultural exchange. Some emphasize the devastating effects of colonization on native communities, land loss, disease, and cultural disruption. Others highlight moments of alliance and mutual adaptation. These debates influence how Roanoke is taught and remembered, encouraging a more nuanced understanding of history. Recognizing indigenous perspectives is crucial to honoring the full story of America's early years. Roanoke remains a captivating subject in schools and universities. Educators use its mystery to engage students with early American history and critical thinking. The story encourages exploration of primary sources, archaeology, and cultural perspectives. Teaching Roanoke fosters awareness of the complexities of colonization, survival, and cross-cultural encounters. It inspires students to question narratives and seek multiple viewpoints. The Lost Colony's mystery endures because it speaks to universal human themes: survival, identity, and the unknown. Its unanswered questions inspire curiosity and imagination. Roanoke invites us to ponder what we might do in the face of uncertainty and loss. This fascination keeps the story alive in books, media, and public consciousness. Modern researchers relentlessly pursue the truth behind the lost colony. Through archaeology, DNA analysis, and historical research, they piece together fragments of the past. Their work balances scientific rigor with respect for native histories and oral traditions. Though definitive answers remain elusive, each discovery brings us closer to understanding. Roanoke's story teaches us about resilience, adaptation, and the complexities of cultural contact. It reminds us to value diverse perspectives and acknowledge historical truths, even uncomfortable ones. The colony's mystery encourages ongoing inquiry and respect for the past. Its lessons resonate in today's conversations about identity, community, and survival. Over centuries, historians and archaeologists have pieced together what evidence remains about the lost colony. Documents, maps, artifacts, and oral traditions all contribute to our understanding. We know the colony struggled with harsh conditions, isolation, and complex native relations. John White's accounts provide valuable first-hand details, yet many questions remain. Modern scientific methods, including archaeology and DNA analysis, have added new insights, but no definitive answers. Revisiting this evidence reminds us of the challenges in reconstructing history and the importance of considering multiple sources. The mystery continues to inspire research and debate. Mysteries like Roanoke capture the imagination because they leave space for questions, theories, and storytelling. The unknown allows us to explore human nature, curiosity, hope, fear, and resilience. Such stories are not just about facts, but about the meaning we find in the past. Roanoke's mystery symbolizes the frontier spirit and the limits of human knowledge. It reminds us that history is often incomplete, inviting us to seek truth while respecting uncertainty. The settlers of Roanoke exhibited immense courage, venturing into the unknown. Thoughtful, their story teaches us about facing uncertainty with determination. Even in adversity, they adapted, cooperated, and hoped. Their experience offers timeless lessons on resilience in the face of hardship. Roanoke reminds us that courage often involves risk and sacrifice, and that survival requires community and faith. Storytelling keeps history alive, connecting past and present. Mary Rowlandson's captivity narrative, native oral traditions, and modern accounts all contribute to Roanoke's legacy. Each story adds perspective, enriching our understanding. Through storytelling, mysteries remain vibrant and accessible to new generations. We can only imagine the daily lives of the lost colonists, their hopes, fears, and struggles. They built homes, tended fields, formed friendships, and dreamed of a future. Though their fate is unknown, their humanity remains. By imagining their lives, we honor their courage and keep their memory alive. Even in the face of mystery and loss, hope endured among the settlers and those searching for them. The human spirit's resilience shines brightest when circumstances are darkest. The settlers clung to faith, community, and dreams of reunion. Those who came after them carried on their legacy, driven by curiosity and compassion. Hope fueled explorations, stories, and research, keeping the memory of Roanoke alive. This hope transcends centuries, reminding us of the enduring power of belief and perseverance. The mystery of Roanoke continues to inspire explorers, archaeologists, and historians today. Modern technology and scientific methods are applied to unravel ancient puzzles, bridging past and present. Roanoke symbolizes the spirit of discovery and the relentless quest for knowledge. Its story motivates new generations to explore history, culture, and the unknown. Roanoke teaches the importance of questioning and seeking answers. Curiosity drives human progress, encouraging us to investigate mysteries and challenge assumptions. Educational programs and public interest in Roanoke foster critical thinking and engagement. The story invites us all to become explorers of history and culture. The legacy of Roanoke calls for respect toward both settlers and indigenous peoples. Recognizing the complexities and shared histories fosters understanding and reconciliation. Honoring all voices enriches our grasp of the past and informs a more inclusive future. As we close this journey through Roanoke's mystery, let your thoughts drift gently like a quiet stream. The lost colony remains an open question, a whisper from the past inviting reflection and wonder. Though answers evade us, the story's spirit endures, quiet, patient, and profound. Rest now, wrapped in history's embrace, and carry the mystery softly into your dreams. As we close this chapter of America's first great mystery, allow your mind to gently drift, like the soft rustle of leaves on a quiet evening. The story of the Roanoke Colony is filled with unanswered questions, silent forests, and the echoes of brave souls who ventured into the unknown. Imagine the waves washing gently on the shore, the stars flickering above the dense canopy, and the quiet breath of a world long past. Though we may never know the full truth of what happened to those settlers, their story reminds us of the resilience of hope amid uncertainty. Take a deep breath now, feeling your body relax more with each exhale. Let the images of forests, ocean breezes, and distant fires slowly fade as your mind settles into calm. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. May the mystery of Roanoke inspire your dreams tonight, and may you rest peacefully, wrapped in the soft embrace of history's quiet secrets. Sleep well, and until next time.